ancient capital of China. A city that makes Rome look like a children's dollhouse and a major cultural center here in China. This is the famous wall of Xi'an. First built in the Tang dynasty, then rebuilt by the Ming in the 15th century, which is what we're going to see, but not now. Now we are going to the Beilin Museum, which our tour guide told us at the hostel, and I'm talking like this because that's how we spoke.
He even knew a Portuguese swear word.
Yeah, he knew.
What have you to say about that, Martha?
Okay,
about the fact the guy knows how to say.
I think it was a major coincidence that he has a soccer coach, Portuguese coach, and he knows the word.
Oh, and by the way, we arrived at the train less than 5 minutes before departure. We didn't lose the train by this. We ran like crazy, like running over everyone and saying, "We are very late, get out of the way," and we catch the train, but we were so close.
What were you saying?
Steles punched a man in the face with his backpack.
It wasn't on purpose.
Yeah. If we not be in Xi'an right now, if we didn't catch the train 5 minutes before.
We traveled for 1,500 miles. 5 hours on the train from Beijing to here. And we're staying here for 3 days, which is a lot more quieter, a lot more relaxing. There's not so many people, fortunately. So yeah, Xi'an, here we are.
The Forest of Stone Steles, or Bailin Museum, is a remarkable hall of relics from ancient dynasties. The museum architecture is based on the Xi'an Confucius Temple, and it dates back into the Song dynasty. Among the 11,000 relics contained in the museum, there are 19 groups that are considered national treasures. In the museum, visitors can find ancient artifacts from the Tang dynasty and even before that. The main attraction of the Bailin Museum is the 3,000 stone tablets collection that contains ancient literature, valuable accounts about the Chinese religions, lifestyles, and history in general.
Where are we?
The Forest of the Stone Tablets.
Which is part of the museum, where around 3,000 tablets like this are displayed here to show all sorts of things, cultural achievements and important events that took place in the Chinese history ever since the Han dynasty, which is 200 years before Christ, until modern times.
Hello. This first room is a collection of 12 books. 12 books, there were must books for intellectuals. Like the book of history, the book of ceremony, the book of rituals. They are very, very old.
And I heard that this kind of calligraphy from this time is still practiced, or can be still practiced today. These blocks here were written by Zhang Shu, which was also called Zhang the Mad. He was a brilliant calligrapher, but he had a particular way of writing things. He would drink wine a lot, then he would cry, walk across the street, and then he would pick his pen and write freely. So he had a very particular style of writing.
Alright.
This was around the Tang dynasty, which is around 900 after Christ.
There are 7 exhibition rooms in the museum, some of them containing the best preserved sets of stone tablets in China. In some of the rooms, there are steles containing poetry that was written by emperors and national heroes. The recommended time to visit the Bailin Museum is around 3 hours. It costs 75 yuan to enter.
This is Deming Palace National Heritage Park. A very big park that is near our hostel. Not as near as we wanted though. We are just taking a quick look at this because we're still very tired from yesterday. After this we are heading back to the hostel to relax. And tomorrow we have an epic day.
We woke up the next day to begin our tour to what is arguably the most significant archaeological finding of the 20th century, the Terracotta Army. Located around 40 kilometers away from Xi'an, Our one-day tour began in the Terracotta Army shop, where tourists are politely presented with all sorts of terracotta figurines for them to buy at an absurdly inflated price, as we would find out later. I'll try to explain which ones are which.
These are the archers, and like this one here are soldiers. These are the officers, the generals. There are only 7 statues of these in the Qin Shihuang tomb, which is with the first emperor. And this is the emperor statue. But there aren't any real statues of these, or none of them were found at least.
And we are now heading to the terracotta tombs. So we just had lunch now.
Yes, we had lunch, and now we are going to the Emperor
Qin Shihuang.
where are the terracotta warriors buried. Let's go.
To the warriors we go. Emperor Qin Shihuang was the first emperor of China, crowned in the year 247 before Christ. Heavily superstitious, the emperor believed that he would be able to conquer heaven in the afterlife. So he ordered the construction of a massive mausoleum to protect him in the afterlife and to aid him in his conquest. All sorts of things were buried in the mausoleum: treasures, food, jewelry, even concubines that were sacrificed to keep the emperor company in the afterlife. The tombs were discovered in 1974 by local farmers that were digging a well in the area. As of 2014, they are still being excavated. There are 4 tombs to be visited. Pit number 2 is still under intense excavation, and it contains around 1,300 warriors and thousands of different bronze weapons. Pit number 4 is pretty much empty, as it was the one that was being dug when the emperor died. Since then, the construction was halted. Pit number 3 is considered by experts to be the command center for the groups in the other tombs. Then there is pit number 1. There is a reason for why this 2,200-year-old site is called often the 8th wonder of the world. Containing more than 6,000 warriors, it is the largest pit of the mausoleum. So far, around 2,000 of them have been unearthed, along with dozens of horses and thousands of weapons of all kinds. In the front, there are 3 lines with over 200 foot soldiers. So far, the tomb of the emperor itself has not been excavated or opened. Archaeological evidence shows that there are several rare artifacts and treasures in the tomb. There are also replicas of several Chinese rivers made with mercury. It is known that there is an underground palace there, which is around 1/4 of the size of the Forbidden City. Pretty huge for a tomb, if you ask me. Those who defend that the tomb should stay unbreached say that there is no technology available yet to properly preserve the tomb. Evidence of that is the lack of color in the terracotta warriors, which was rapidly eroded when the statues were dug over 40 years ago. This was an insane project. The emperor was kind of a megalomaniac, obsessed with the immortal life and all that. So what is suspected today is that he died due to mercury.
Mercury poisoning.
Yeah,
Mercury poisoning, which he consumed a lot because he believed that the mercury would prolong his life and he could become immortal. So he died and he left all this legacy. By far the biggest archaeological find in the whole of China, and this is a reason alone to visit this country filled with cultural heritage.
Enjoy, dude!
So you guys, here we are at Qin Shihuang Mausoleum. I think it's down there.
That mountain.
So our tour arrived here, and the tour guide gave us like 3 options. One option was to go and see the excavation behind that mountain, which is very far.
1 hour walking at least.
1 hour walking, or do that by electric car for 15 yuan. And it was like half an hour, she said.
But the problem is, it's not really worth it. I mean, there are 150 pits, right? Sacrificial pits.
And only 2 are available.
Only 2 are open, and the content of the pits is really limited.
So,
And it doesn't make any sense, the entrance is so far away from the goddamn mausoleum.
yeah. And the
Actually,
whole group, all 13 of us decided not to go. It was unanimous.
You have no idea how hot it is. I've heard it's 50 degrees today. It's probably not that hot, but it's still very, very hot.
Probably 40 or something.
It's 40, easily 40 degrees. And with this humidity, it makes it
it's very difficult to walk around. We have seen the army, which was the main purpose of this visit.
So we all chose option 3, not to go there. Hopefully we'll get a cool beer and relax before going to the Muslim quarter. Have some dinner.
Indeed.
Once known as Chang'an, Xi'an was once the capital of China, and where the Silk Road began. The Drum Tower of Xi'an stands right by the entrance of the Muslim quarter of Xi'an, where over 20,000 Muslims live, and which has over 10 mosques for them to pray in.
Welcome to the Muslim quarter, where Eastern culture meets Middle Eastern culture. It's very interesting to see Muslim-looking Chinese. They are really different from the average Chinese, right?
Yes.
From the usual Chinese. Have you seen the ladies with the scarves?
Yes.
Really unique to see those.
Look at all the food.
You want to compare the prices? Some advice?
Well, my friends, when you buy terracotta figurines at the terracotta site, they are much more expensive
Yeah, be prepared to get ripped off.
than in here,
In here we found,
Muslim
to
market.
give you guys an idea, we got a figurine, how tall? It was like this, for 150 yuan at the site, which is around 20 euros. In here we found the same thing for 10 yuan. So yeah, don't buy stuff there. Buy them here at the Muslim quarter, where it's much cheaper. What's that?
Goose on a stick.
What's that?
I don't know, I think it's rice.
Let me try it. Yeah, this tastes like nothing.
Nothing.
So, here's this is nothing cake. If you want to taste the cake that tastes like nothing, this is where you want to buy
It's like
that
rice
cake.
without, no, with egg, cream or something.
It tastes like absolutely nothing. It's like water cake. And the food is good here as well. It's cheap, it's spicy, for the most part, not always, but it's a really interesting market. Nothing like what we saw in Beijing. Forget the bugs and all that. There's nothing like that in here. But you have to come here. It's really worth it here in Xi'an. So, after walking in the Muslim quarter for quite a while, we kind of got lost there, but here we are now, in front of the drum tower, which is now completely lit by night, and it's absolutely beautiful. One amazing thing about Xi'an is that they lighten up every major monument in the city when it's dark, so this looks really amazing by night. Good morning and welcome to the wall. We are now climbing this fantastic Ming Dynasty structure built on top of the wall that was built in the Tang Dynasty, and then we are taking a look at the city from the wall.
The ancient walls of Xi'an are one of the oldest and best preserved defensive systems in the world. Built by the Ming in the 14th century, it encloses an area of around 36 square kilometers. It is 14 kilometers long and 12 meters high. It takes over an hour by bike to do the whole wall. Every day there are changing of the guard ceremonies inside the walls at 9:30, 15:30 and 18:30. Epic shows of choreography and music that is a must for visitors to see.
what happened back there?
A lady fell down from her bicycle on a ramp, broken her head, and lots of blood, and we went to rescue her and asked for the Chinese emergency.
We waited for a good 20 minutes holding the lady's head and putting pressure on the wound, which was right around here. Her head was just split open and blood was everywhere. She almost passed out. It was pretty intense. Then they finally called an ambulance. They called, well, somebody.
I think they took her to the hospital, and then she spoke a little Spanish because her husband was Spanish, so we could communicate with her a little bit with Spanish.
Yeah.
In the end,
Everybody
thanked us.
Everybody was cheering. Yeah, we looked like heroes. This guy even gave me cigarettes.
Yes.
Yeah, everyone was thanking us. Well, it was good to help out. So. Welcome to the drum tower. Right by the bell tower right there. This tower was built in the Ming Dynasty in the year 1380, just 4 years before the bell tower, which is right there. And it has a typical Ming architecture. It was used to tell the time by signaling through the drums, by hitting the drums at dusk, just like the bell tower was used to tell the time at dawn. This was used to tell the time at dusk.
The drum tower of Xi'an is the largest of its kind in China. It has 28 drums of different sizes on its exterior. Inside there is an exhibition of Chinese furniture and craftwork. It takes around 1 hour to visit.
The great mosque of Xi'an, which was originally built in the Tang Dynasty, makes it around 1300 years old. It's very old mosque. It's arguably the most famous mosque in China, and it's under restoration. Oh my God.
The largest and among the oldest and best preserved Islamic structures in China, the Great Mosque of Xi'an was built in 742 in the Tang Dynasty. Islam was introduced in China in the mid-7th century by merchants and travelers from Persia and Afghanistan. Other mosques were built in honor of the Muslims that played an important role in the unification of China during the Yuan and Ming dynasties. The Great Mosque of Xi'an has 4 courtyards. The 4th courtyard has the Great Prayer Hall, where only Muslims are allowed to enter. It can fit more than 1,000 people inside. The Great Mosque of Xi'an was added to the UNESCO World Heritage List in 1985.
And here we are, after walking the Yanta Shilu Avenue for quite a while, we arrive at one of, if not the symbol of Xi'an, the big wild goose pagoda, built in the Tang Dynasty to pay homage to a Buddhist monk. Here it is. It's one of the oldest structures in the city.
A long time ago, a Chinese Buddhist monk and scholar named Xuanzang traveled through China in search of sacred books to expand his knowledge of Buddhism. He became famous for his 17-year-old long overland trip to India, when he brought back to China several Buddhist teachings that were unknown to the Chinese before then. One of the main landmarks of Xi'an, the Big Wild Goose Pagoda, was built in 652. It holds several sacred Buddhist relics that were brought from India to China by Xuanzang.
Really nice going up, although you have to pay separately.
As usual?
As usual, you pay separately for... The thing is, you pay to enter an attraction, and then inside the attraction you pay again if you want to enter a particular building inside the attraction. Communism, huh?
Xuanzang was born in 600 AD. He began his journey in 629. He reached Bodh Gaya, the birthplace of Buddhism, in 637. He returned to Xi'an in 645. He brought with him more than 600 Sanskrit texts. He passed away when he was 64 years old.
Good morning and welcome to the Xi'an History Museum, the most famous history museum in Xi'an and the most recommended museum in the city as well. Here we are in the outer courtyard of the Xi'an Museum after waiting around 15 minutes in line for a 20 yuan ticket. Let's hope there are no more tickets to buy inside. So let's go.
The first modern national museum in China, the Xi'an Museum, covers 65,000 square meters and holds 370,000 artifacts, which show the long history of China, from prehistoric times up to 1840 AD. It has 5 main exhibition halls. Hall 1 focuses on prehistoric times, Hall 2 goes mainly through the Han Dynasty, Hall 3 is dedicated to the Tang Dynasty, the 4th hall shows the great treasures from the Tang Dynasty, and the 5th hall contains several mural paintings, also from the Tang Dynasty.
Here we are in the small Wild Goose Pagoda, where we stopped by on our way home. 30 yuan to enter. Suffice to say, there is not one single attraction in this city where you don't pay to get in. Here is the small pagoda.
Built around 50 years after the big Wild Goose Pagoda, the small Wild Goose Pagoda was 45 meters tall until the Shanxi earthquake of 1556 damaged the pagoda and destroyed its top 2 meters. In the past, the pagoda stood next to the Dajianfu temple, which contained several Buddhist texts that pilgrims brought from India. It costs 30 yuan to go in. Curiously, it takes much more effort to climb to the top of the small Wild Goose Pagoda than to the top of the big Wild Goose Pagoda.
Hi. So, after climbing 11 floors, we are on the top of the small Wild Goose Pagoda here in the center of Xi'an City. The center of Xi'an City.
But it's not very small.
This was built in the Tang Dynasty.
As you can see,
Tang Dynasty.
this is very small.
This is really small and it's damaged.
Very tight stairs.
We came from this rabbit hole right here.
Yes.
So the view isn't nothing special. Buildings everywhere.
I think it's nice.
No, it's nice.
A soccer field.
You have a little lake.
Right.
You can
It's
see
not
the
best view in
city.
the world, but
That's the best view.
it's far from being the worst as well.
Now we are going to do base jump. No, we're not.
This thing in 1964 was actually almost split in half. It was really very badly damaged and it was repaired, and now the money comes pouring in from tourists.
Oh yeah, they explore the tourists as hell.
Yeah, they do. They're almost like us.
Well, let's go back.
Yeah.
We got a train to catch.
This is really cool inside here, this courtyard.
Esse courtyard aqui, tá vendo? Essa mesquita francesa.
Francês?
É nossa, né?
Vou fazer pesquete.